4, 6, 8. Is that copper really straight? 3, 5, 7, 9. Lesbians are mighty fine. And we played spin a bottle, you know, where and then it points at someone, and then you do spin it again, and it points at another person, and then those two people have to hug and kiss. So that might be 2 women, a man and a woman, 2 men, and you realise at this time, even just things like men kissing each other could possibly lead to an arrest.
Yeah.
And so we were being quite brave. But the police I think they didn't quite know how to handle it all. We just came there, we sat down, we had sandwiches to share, we had booze to share, we had dope to share, and we're all age groups there, sort of from quite sort of people under 16 to people sort of, you know, in their 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
And it was a very joyous occasion. We felt really free.
And Andrew, how much was that day the beginning of the change that we went on to see in the decades that followed?
It changed things forever because we were claiming the daylight. We'd been told that we weren't to be seen. And so on that day, we were out there being seen. And we've been out there being seen ever since. I would like the schools in time to understand that what we did on the Pride Day in 1972 has a deep, deep background. As with people of colour, LGBT people, our history goes back centuries. It doesn't start in 1970 or 1972. Those are tremendous leaps onward. But we had a wonderful, wonderful explosion of rebellion against the cruelties that were practiced on us right the way through the 1950s and the 1960s.
Do you all go to Pride have you gone to Pride every year since, pretty much, all of you?
Yes.
Yeah? Does that apply to all of you, Andrew, Stuart and Nettie?
No.
No?
No, because particularly because it has become commercialised, because you have to pay to go, and because of arms fairs, the BAE systems appear at Pride and have had a big float, didn't they, Andrew? You saw that.
They had a mobile cinema with a screen big enough for a sports event showing warplanes. That's on our Pride March. So I went down the barricades saying to people, because the young people behind the barricades are wonderful. They come from everywhere, Brazil, Hartlepool. They're there behind the barricades. They're applauding us, cheering us, saying, thank you, thank you. And I went down the barricade ahead of this terrible mobile cinema that Nettie's talking about, put there by BAE Systems. I went down the barricade saying, when that comes into sight, will you boo it? Will you boo it, please? And explain why. And they were horrified when they discovered what it was and what it was there doing.
And who do they sell arms to? Countries like Saudi Arabia, with one of the most corrupt regimes in the world, which also persecute LGBT plus people.
What do you do? I mean, obviously, Andrew, you're still going. I don't know if you would have gone this year if it had been on in different circumstances, but, you know, I mean, would you still go? And what needs to happen if you're pretty unsatisfied with how things are at the moment?
I always go if I'm here. I haven't been to all the ones over 48 years, but I always go because I want to talk to the people who have come to take part in it. And the regulations get so tight that last year I was walking back up the march, if you see what I mean, contraflow, in order to talk to people and talk to people on various, who are walking in various groups. And a steward tried to stop me from going in that direction and said it's not allowed to walk north. Not allowed to walk north. This is a new law of geography or the universe. I didn't try to pick a quarrel because they're all volunteers. They do all this for nothing. They're cheerful. They're very young. So I thought I'd use the really annoying tactic and just say, well, if you don't mind my saying so, I was on the first of these marches nearly 50 years ago, and I would prefer to walk north. So, of course, he just said, well, you know, all right,
Yeah.
do it.
Can't argue with that.
Because I like to see what the realities are.
Yeah.
And everything that I understand, Nettie has voiced her protest by often not going. And I fully understand that. I suppose because I was a journalist, I like to go and see for myself. And what I saw for myself last year was a mobile cinema advertising warships, warplanes.
There's a really excellent film about Pride called Are You Proud by Ashley Joyner, which faces the whole thing, because it's got lots of information and interviews with people involved in organisations like Lesbians and Gays Support the Migrants, and it's got poetry, and it's got all sorts of things, and it's just really worth seeing.
Has it lost its way, Nettie?
Yes, it has.
And how does it find it again?
I think that the whole LGBT plus movement is moving in the right direction towards being more radical again. I mean, we've got GLS going again, you know, for the last 2 or 3 years. We've started with partly just the people that were in it to begin with, and then a host of mainly young people who've joined. You can't join because it's not a membership organisation, who come and be part of it. And so we're being involved in lots of radical actions. There's lots and lots of organisations now that are taking a much more radical agenda, and not just trying to be respectable and get a place at the table. As I say, let's get rid of the high table.
Really interesting to hear their thoughts and to hear their recollections of all those years ago. That was Stuart Feather, Andrew Lumsden, and we heard from Nettie Pollard at the end there with their memories of the first ever Pride March that took part in London, July the 1st, 1972. It's amazing when you hear it. As I said earlier on, it just, the way they describe it just feels like you're talking about a different planet, doesn't it? But then I think back to myself, that was only 4 years before I was born. Which is amazing, really, isn't it? So, look, we are going to have the lock-in very, very shortly. We need your company tonight between now and 1 o'clock, so pull up a chair. I've been looking forward to this all day. You know, it's something that Colin has been doing for a while. We had the longer version, which I heard a lot of, just like you did. We've got a bit of shorter drinking time in our virtual pub. The lock-in 2.0 coming up. With some terrific guests. If you've watched RuPaul's Drag Race, you'll remember season 1 in the UK. Cheryl Hole is going to be joining us, comedian Susie Ruffle, and the musician Jamie Webster, the poet Amina Atik, all with us between now and 1 o'clock on 5 Live. But it's gone midnight, so it's time to get the news. On digital, BBC Sound, smart speaker, and this is BBC Radio 5 Live.
BBC News at midnight. This is Justine Green. About 12,000 job losses have been announced across the UK as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. High street retailers, including the Arcadia Group, Harrods and WH Smith, are among the latest companies to cut their workforce. John Lewis says some of its branches won't reopen. Lindy Woodhead, the author of the biography which inspired the TV series Mr. Selfridge, says that John Lewis having trouble doesn't bode well for other high street shops.
It actually sends a shiver up the spine, to be quite honest. This is an iconic brand. This is part of our life. Many of us, certainly at my age, we have grown up shopping in John Lewis. It's part of Great Britain. Shopping has changed, however, and we have got to get used to it.
Councils in England have warned that crucial services could face cuts because of the additional cost of dealing with the pandemic. The Local Government Association estimates that even with more than £3 billion of extra support from central government, there'll be a funding gap of more than £7 billion this year. Up to 3 million people in Hong Kong have been granted new rights to live and work in Britain after China imposed a new security law in the territory. Nearly 400 people have been arrested during protests against the new legislation, which Boris Johnson has described as a serious breach of the treaty China signed with the UK when it took back control in 1997. The Conservative MP Neil O'Brien, who's the secretary of the China Research Group, has welcomed the government's offer, but says they could do more.
I think that what the Prime Minister has announced is a big deal. I think it is the right thing to do where people hold British passports and they're being oppressed by an increasingly aggressive government in Beijing. More can potentially be done. Actually, in the poll that we have out today, 6 out of 10 people support the idea of targeted sanctions on those who have been responsible for bringing in this new repressive law in Hong Kong.
Polls have closed in Russia after a week-long referendum on constitutional changes that are expected to extend President Putin's rule until 2036. Initial results suggest around 70% of voters have supported the reforms. Opposition members have dismissed the poll as a farce. Sarah Rainsford reports.
The results of voting so far show strong support for a giant package of changes to Russia's constitution, including one key amendment that will allow Vladimir Putin even more years in power. The rest, all 200 or so reforms, look like padding. Here in Moscow, those who voted against said they were fed up with the same face in the Kremlin. But Vladimir Putin could now be staying put there until 2036.
The former West Indies cricketer Sir Everton Weekes has died at the age of 95. He's credited with helping to define West Indian cricket after the Second World War. And the weather, a largely cloudy night with rain across northern England, and this should die out in most places by the afternoon. BBC News, it's 3 minutes past midnight.
Ellis James and John Robbins.
Talk me through the sort of stuff you're dealing with in a primary national curriculum lesson, homeschooling edition.
We're sent exercises by the school, which we started off by doing, and then it became slightly more vibe-based.
Sounds like a fluid kind of, I'm going to say, humanist, holistic approach to teaching.
It's so approachable and chilled out, and you never know when I'm going to snap. Sometimes over the smallest little things.
Ellis James and John Robbins.
This Friday from 1 on BBC Radio 5 Live.
Hello. It's gone midnight. You're listening to 5 Live, and this is something I've been looking forward to. Welcome to the Lock-In 2.0. If you're a regular, you'll know full well that Colin has had his virtual bar over the past few months. He used to go on for a lot longer. I really enjoyed a lot of that. The community that developed in this pub was fantastic. Whether you were pulling up a chair to the table that we're sat at, or whether you were just propping up at the bar. The landlord is away for the night, so I'm in charge of what has already become something of an institution, hasn't it really, as a drinking establishment, as a live entertainment venue. The variety that we've had over the past few weeks and months as well has been great. And as I say, you're very, very welcome to pull up a seat. Just an hour. But we'll have the usual music live from the stage. We'll have some spoken word as well. 85058 if you want to get involved. And just to tell us you're with us and part of the conversation. And it's a bit of a Pride special tonight, as we've had throughout the evening. Sharing with some of our regulars what Pride means to them. And wishing everyone who might be pulling up a seat a happy Pride as well. Sandy's got in touch saying loving our community space on radio. Mine's a hot chocolate tonight. You can drink what you like. Cheryl Hole is with us. Cheryl calls herself.
Darling.
Hello. Are you all right?
Darling, I'm fabulous. I mean, I'm sitting here in full drag at midnight. But you know what? That's a drag queen's usual stomping time.
Listen, I need to let our listeners know. Top 4 on RuPaul's Drag Race UK Season 1. You call it yourself the mediocre Queen of Essex on Twitter. Nothing mediocre about you. And look, let's bring in Susie as well. Comedian Susie Ruffle is with us. Hey Susie, how are you?
Hi, I'm very well, thanks. I'm good. I'm loving that we've got the Zoom open. I'm here in absolutely no makeup, not a scrap of it on, and Cheryl just looks phenomenal. So
you don't need it. You don't.
Oh, honestly, the bags are real. I'm in a very dimly lit room.
I need it every day of the week, believe me, but that's why I love it being radio most of the time, you see.
Absolutely.
You have a
it's
face
great.
for radio.
Yes, all right. Thank you. If I had a penny for every time I hear that, it would be the same as Warburton and bread. But look, I'll tell you what, actually, I feel a little bit guilty, Cheryl, because we had a chat earlier on today, and you were saying during lockdown that you have had quite a lot of people saying, right, well, we need you to do this thing, we want you to do this thing, and obviously we want you to do it in drag. And you're like, okay, stick it all on again.
Well, we've entered a new age of digital drag where pretty much you do everything from the waist up. So right now, I'm looking at my bare, hairy legs going, nobody needs to see that, don't need to touch that. I'm really seeing the visual face.
It's going to get annoying when people start asking you to do the full thing again.
Don't even get me started. The first time I had to put on 4 pairs of tights, I'm sweating like there was no tomorrow.
Are you still going to be able to walk in heels? That's the question. You're going to lose the skill.
Darling, I've been practicing in my mum's heels since the age of 3. That is never going to leave me. It's like riding the bike.
I was actually, so I've got a 9 and a 6-year-old, and we were watching some of the Glastonbury highlights, you know, that they had it on the iPlayer over the weekend, which was brilliant. I mean, obviously it was nothing like the actual thing. But I know loads of people watched the Beyonce performance that she did all those years ago, and I don't know, to my 6 and 9-year-old girls, their eyes were kind of bulging out of their face. I mean, they had heard of Beyonce, you know what I mean? But the heels that Beyonce and her backing dancers, and don't get me wrong, you know, you're well used to seeing women dancing in heels in all sorts of ways, but just watching that, I just thought, man, some of these moves they're pulling, and my girls were like, how do they do that?
Well,
you know.
Beyonce's the closest thing to God, so they're
I would agree, I back that up.
Honestly, whenever I watch her, and I've had the pleasure of seeing her live a couple of times, and you just sit in awe, and you just go, how is this human producing this level of entertainment and work, and just having such an energy about her? I think we can all agree that Beyonce is the demigod of the music industry.
Definitely.
But where did you